universe rarely trembles from a single message, but on that morning, at precisely 430 hours Terran Standard Time, the entire Sol system held its breath. It started as static, the kind that vibrated through deep space monitoring stations and made technicians glance nervously at one another. At first, they believed it was solar interference or a glitch in the Keeper net. But then, the static sharpened, carved itself into shape, and formed syllables no human mouth could produce. Sharp, clicking, metallic, like bones striking polished metal. Every station from Luna Relay to the new Chicago Orbital froze as the translation AI fought to interpret the alien broadcast. Analysts stood motionless. Soldiers paused, mid-routine. Even civilians with low-level clearance felt a chill swirl through their guts as the noise built, louder and louder, until finally, the alien voice stopped. A digital tone chimed 3 times, and the sentence flashed across every authorized monitor. "We have taken 132 of your citizens. You will not pursue. No signature. No explanation. Just a statement. A declaration of superiority." Before any human could process the shock, images began streaming in blurry, frantic, unsteady, but unmistakable. The interior of a Zale Confederacy dreadnought. Long, circular halls with flowing metal veins that pulsed like a living orgasm. Bright chambers filled with humming instruments. Alien guards shaped like walking obsidian shards. And humans. So many humans. Bound in shimmering energy coils that pulsed each time they resisted. Men, women, elderly researchers from the Ceres biolab, a Martian shuttle crew wrapped in emergency blankets, even a high school robotics team kids, no older than 15, huddled against each other, confused and terrified, their backpacks still strapped to their shoulders. One girl clung to a stuffed fox. A boy mouthed silent prayers. One of the scientists kept asking, "Why us?" though no one answered. The footage flickered, twisted, and cut off as suddenly as it began. Then the screen turned black. For 60 full seconds, humanity said nothing. It was the longest, coldest silence Earth had ever known. The Zale likely interpreted it as shock. Perhaps fear. They were a notoriously isolationist empire, proud and ancient, known to swat aside pirate fleets and rival species without a second thought. They had avoided human contact for decades, labeling humanity young and unproven. They assumed humanity would hesitate. They assumed humanity would negotiate. They assumed humanity would ask for mercy. They didn't understand the species they had provoked. Because in that silence, Earth wasn't afraid. Earth was counting, processing, preparing. The first to break the stillness was the Terran Defense Command, issuing a priority black communication lockdown, the kind used only when Earth faced existential threats. Civilian networks dimmed. News anchors read from scripts without knowing specifics. Military bases closed their gates. Every officer with deep space clearance was summoned. No war declaration was spoken. No general shouted for launch. No politicians made speeches. Instead, a single encrypted phrase appeared simultaneously on every classified console across the Sol system. RETRIEV ALPROTOCOLINITED. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a law. It was older, deep in the bones of a species that rose from survival, community, and the fierce instinct to protect its own. Retrieval protocol wasn't about retaliation. It wasn't about war. It was about one truth every human carried in their blood. No one takes our people. Not alive. Not dead. Not ever. Every species in the galaxy understood the concept of revenge. But humans didn't seek revenge. They sought restoration. And nothing, absolutely nothing in the universe could stop them once that word was spoken. At 600 hours, without fanfare, without broadcasting, without even informing half of Earth's leaders, humanity activated its most dangerous, most mythologized project, one that even military historians doubted was real. Project D, a double UNHA MMER. At 615, deep in a classified dock beneath the surface of Titan's methane seas, an enormous vessel stirred. Dark engines hummed, hull plates aligned with a rumble like a planetary heartbeat. Massive anchor chains unlatched in a synchronized metallic scream. The cryo coils along its sides vaporized in columns of icy steam. Then the ship rose. A behemoth. A monster. A promise. Its armor drank the dim light, bending it inward like a gravitational whirlpool. The entire hull seemed to flicker as adaptive plating flowed like black liquid. Its prow was shaped like the head of an ancient Terran battering ram. Its engines glowed not with flame, but with contained starlight. The hammer of dawn launched from Titan, piercing the dark like a spear made from the night itself. No other ship accompanied it. No fleet trailed behind. When humanity sent the hammer, it meant one thing. We are coming. Zale noticed the spatial disturbance before they saw the ship. Their border outpost, stationed in the Asterian sector, detected gravitational ripples rolling across the void, unnatural, synchronized pulses that made station lights flicker and biological crew hiss in confusion. They scanned for weapon signatures and found none. But they should have feared the silence more. The hammer tore into real space in a ripple of distorted gravity, like the universe exhaled something too heavy to hold. Cell officers scrambled. Their armor rattled as they rushed to stations, issuing frantic commands in sharp, insectoid screeches. Before they could target the vessel, a blast of searing white-blue light erupted from the hammer's prow. Not a missile. Not a railgun slug. A compressed fusion lash, precise, surgical, instantaneous. Zell Outpost didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. Its molecules vaporized into a cloud of glittering dust before drifting away like a faint silver mist. No debris. No survivors. No chance for retaliation. The hammer glided through the lingering particles, calm and silent. Then it spoke. The message was transmitted across every channel, encrypted and unencrypted, in every language known to humanity and every dialect the Zale possessed. The voice was neither human nor synthetic. It was something colder, deeper, forged from purpose alone. Return our people, now. Nothing more. No threats. No countdown. No second chances. The Zal Confederacy, across hundreds of worlds, felt the weight of that message. Their diplomats shrieked in fear. Their generals clashed mandibles in confusion. Their scholars reviewed ancient files on humanity and wondered how they had underestimated such a young species. Humanity didn't want conquest. Humanity didn't want territory. Humanity didn't want dominance. Humanity wanted its people back. All 132 of them. And if they weren't returned, then the Hammer of Dawn would be the first shadow in a storm the galaxy had never seen before. Humanity had been insulted. Humanity had been provoked, and far worse than all of that, humanity had been wounded. The Sail Confederacy had taken humans. They thought they captured hostages. They didn't realize they had declared war on an entire species' soul. Humanity wasn't coming for negotiation. Humanity wasn't coming for diplomacy. Humanity was coming for family. And the galaxy would soon learn why that was the most terrifying motive of all. The destruction of the outpost sent a shockwave through the Sail Confederacy, not the physical kind, but something deeper, more primal. Panic, confusion, fear, a kind of fear that spreads through a hive mind species with the speed of wildfire. The Sail had never encountered a species who answered abduction with instantaneous annihilation. Their enemies typically opened negotiations, demanded ransom, or deployed fleets in a show of strength. But humanity had done none of those things. They had not issued a threat. They had not declared war. They had not even taken credit officially. They simply acted. The Sail High Council convened in a frantic emergency session in the capital hive of Vrathok Prime, a towering city of spiraling metal columns and glowing neural conduits that linked every building like veins in a vast organism. Sail leaders filled the chamber, their iridescent carapaces glinting with agitation as they hissed and clicked in heated argument. Through this commotion, messages poured in from border stations, each one more disturbing than the last. The human vessel designation unknown, power levels unreadable, was advancing deeper into Sail territory with terrifying clarity. It did not deviate. It did not cloak. It did not negotiate. It advanced with the inevitability of a falling star. A single vessel, yet every Sail watcher knew instinctively this was not an act of arrogance. It was an act of certainty. The High Executor of Defense, a towering Sail named Rin Kor, struck the chamber floor with his ceremonial pike to silence the council. "Identify the human vessel," he hissed. His advisors presented fragmented data. No Sail scanner could penetrate the ship's outer hull. No known energy signatures matched its core. It appeared simultaneously ancient and advanced, a ghost forged from human obsession. Finally, a junior analyst conjured a distorted image, grainy, low resolution, but enough to decipher 3 massive words etched onto the vessel's side. HAMMEROFDWN. The chamber fell silent. Even the neural conduits dimmed slightly, reflecting the sudden hush. No Sail had heard this name before, but several elders, old enough to recall obscure legends from humanity's early interstellar contacts, stiffened in recognition. They remembered stories whispered among mercenaries, rumors of a ship humanity built not as a weapon of conquest, but as a tool for vengeance. A vessel that appeared only in cases of catastrophic provocation. How much of this was truth, and how much folktale, the Sail had never cared to determine. Until now, Council debated for hours, but no resolution came. Their scholars insisted humanity lacked sufficient firepower to challenge the Confederacy. Their generals argued the destruction of the outpost must have been a technological fluke or a desperate gambit. Their political liaisons insisted humanity would eventually seek diplomacy. The High Executor made the fatal decision: deploy the sovereign fleet. Show these humans the strength of the Zal. The order resonated across the Empire. It was the single gravest mistake they could have made. Far away, in the Ophiuchus Rift, the Hammer of Dawn glided through warped space, engines humming with quiet menace. Its crew, few as they were, remained focused. Each station pulsed with holographic readouts. The internal AIA sentient construct, named RAVEL, monitored every micron of space around them, its voice a calm whisper inside the command module. Sol Sovereign Fleet mobilizing. 1,242 ships. Engagement imminent. Captain Mara Elian, commander of the Hammer, did not flinch. Her face bore the calm expression of someone who had accepted the weight of her duty long before the mission began. "Hold course," she said quietly. RAVEL's voice softened. "We are outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Mara touched the small holo locket hanging from her console. It flickered open to reveal a smiling family, a spouse, 2 children, a dog sticking its tongue out. She closed it slowly. "We're not here for war. We're here for our people." "Yes," RAVEL replied, "but they stand in our way." Mara exhaled. "Then we do what we must." Meanwhile, across human space, the mobilization accelerated. The Terran fleet was no longer silent. Carriers launched from Mars' anchorage, their hulls gleaming beneath icy blue floodlights. Destroyers emerged from the shipyards of Europa, bristling with upgraded gravlance arrays. Civilian ships were commandeered and retrofitted mining barges became ad hoc troop carriers, luxury liners transformed into medical frigates. Every ship that could move began moving. But what truly terrified Galactic observers was the unity. There were no political fights, no budget disputes, no jurisdictional battles. Every human world acted with absolute synchronicity. When the High Marshal of Earth appeared on a secure channel, her voice echoed through briefing halls across the system. They took children. They took families. They took innocent civilians. This is not a military operation. This is a retrieval. We do not wage war. We reclaim what is ours. On Ceres, thousands of workers volunteered to crew auxiliary rescue ships. On Titan, civilians held vigils near the launch site where the Hammer had departed. On Earth, old veterans came out of retirement, demanding to help in any way they could. Even pirates in the outer belt offered intel freely. "Find your people first. You can repay us later." The galaxy watched in disbelief as humanity fractured. Argumentative, chaotic humanity became a single, unified entity driven by purpose. It was a terrifying thing to behold. Back in Zal territory, the Sovereign Fleet assembled. 1,000 sleek warships formed a wall of living metal. Their hulls pulsed with shifting bioluminescent runes. Their engines burned green with ionized plasma. Their elite warriors prepared for glorious battle. The Zale believed they would crush the single human vessel with ease. They did not understand what the Hammer was designed to do. As the fleets drew closer, the Hammer of Dawn slowed to a near standstill. Its dark silhouette hung in space like a silent omen. Zale ships screamed warnings across every channel, demanding identification, demanding surrender, demanding acknowledgement of their superiority. Captain Mara's only response was a command spoken into the air. RAVEL. Activate Guardian Protocol. The AI complied instantly. The Hammer's hull began to glow faintly at first, then brighter, until rings of rotating energy formed around the vessel, each one moving at impossible speed. Space bent, gravity folded. Time itself seemed to hesitate. The Zal Sovereign Fleet fired first. Millions of plasma bolts tore through space. Radiation spikes lit up like supernovas. ion beams sliced toward the hammer with surgical precision. The hammer did not dodge. It did not raise shields. It simply endured. The onslaught washed over its hull like rain on a mountain. Then the hammer answered. Not with destruction. Not with violence. Not with fire. The massive energy rings around the ship flared outward in a perfect shockwave, silent, stunning, unstoppable. Every sail ship it touched went dark instantaneously. Weapons deactivated. Engines died. Artificial gravity shut down. Armor lost power. Entire command decks plunged into darkness. It was as if someone had blown out candles across 1,000 ships. One by one, they drifted, floating, powerless, helpless. The hammer had not killed a single sail. And yet, it had defeated an entire fleet. Captain Mara closed her eyes, whispering a single sentence to the stunned survivors. We did not come for war. Stand down, or we will leave you behind. But even as she spoke, RAVEL detected something else deep within the Zale flagship. Heartbeat readings. Life signs. 132 of them. Human. Alive. The Zal had not harmed them, but they had hidden them. And that, perhaps, was their greatest miscalculation. Because humanity wasn't here for conquest. Humanity wasn't here for pride. Humanity wasn't here for battle. Humanity was here for family. No one in the Karth Dominion had ever heard the phrase collective human fury. Not until that day. Not until the day the galaxy learned that when humans grieved, the universe trembled. It began with a ripple, just a whisper across subspace, a faint distortion captured by outposts along the Dominion's border. Their analysts dismissed it as a malfunction, a spatial echo from the last hyperlane storm. But then the ripple grew teeth. It reshaped the readings. It burrowed beneath their scanners like gravity with intent, and suddenly the tactical screens lit up in a single universal warning. UMANVESS ELSM ULTIPLA UNKNOWNCLASS UNKNOWNSIGNATURE UNKNOWUNARMANENT A PPROA CHINGFAST. The Karth had known humans were coming. They had even prepared a ceremonial response, a typical show of arrogance, keep the humans waiting in orbit while their diplomats crafted excuses. They expected negotiation, bargaining, threats, maybe even bribery. They expected the predictable patterns of galactic diplomacy. What they did not expect was the silence. Human ships did not broadcast requests for docking. They did not demand parley. They did not answer Dominion hails. Humanity, for the first time in its interstellar existence, arrived without words. The first fleet to drop from hyperspace was the UNSF Resolute Front, her steel-gray hull glowing with entry burn, flanked by 24 escort ships like silent wolves. Each one bore no flashing insignias, no decorative flags, only the emblem of a single blue line across a white field. The Dominion's tactical screens had to run the icon through translation 3 times before accepting the result. Non-negotiation peacekeeping fleet, authorized for extreme recovery missions. Extreme recovery. The Karth had laughed at that directive in the past. They weren't laughing now. Inside the Resolute Front, Captain Mara Osei walked the length of her command bridge, every step measured and quiet. She didn't shout orders. She didn't need to. Her presence was enough to steady the ship. Her eyes, dark and unwavering, watched the Dominion's planetary defenses lock onto them. "Threat levels rising," her lieutenant murmured. "Missile silos primed. Orbital rails powering." Mara nodded once. "Hold course." The Dominion commander, a towering insectoid known as K. Theral Prime Strand, appeared on the comm with a sneer etched into the mandibles lining his face. "Human fleet, you approach unauthorized space. Cease movement, or we will." Captain Osei cut him off without blinking. "Where are our people?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Not a shout, not a threat. Just a demand, steady, naked, and merciless. K. Theral clicked in amusement. "Your captured units are safe. They are being processed for intelligence acquisition. And as for your presence..." "Where," she repeated, "are our people?" The Dominion commander paused, thrown off for the briefest moment. Humans were supposed to be reasonable, emotional, predictable. He had studied the psychological briefings. They negotiated their grief. They didn't wield it. "You are outnumbered," K. Theral hissed. "You cannot possibly expect a favorable outcome by..." A sensor technician whispered, "Captain, they're charging their weapons." Captain Osei didn't turn. "Return the courtesy." Her lieutenant paled. "All batteries?" "All of them." Across the void, Dominion officers shouted, scrambled, and cursed as the human fleet began to glow, not with the cold blue of standard plasma, but with something they had never seen, something erratic and bright, something angry. Alarms erupted across the Dominion's flagship. "What are they doing?" Kai Theral snarled. The Dominion's tactical AI stuttered in confusion. "UNKNOWNERGYBUP. UNKNOWNINTENT. UNKNOWUNPROTOCOL." A trembling officer on the Dominion bridge whispered, "Commander, they look like they're..." "Preparing to fire," K. Theral finished. But humans didn't fire. Not yet. Instead, Mara Osei leaned forward, her voice a low, controlled whisper. "We know you captured 12 human civilians from the freighter Dawnstar. 2 were children. 1 was elderly. We have confirmed life signs on your world. We are here for them. All of them." K. Theral barked a laugh. "Or what? You'll risk a full war for 12. Mara didn't interrupt him. Her weapons did. A single human rail lance fired not at a ship, not at a city. It hit a mountain. A single mountain. A symbolic strike. The Karth homeworld shook. Tectonic sensors wailed. Dust clouds blanketed half a continent. The Dominion's entire Senate chamber felt the tremor and fell silent. Humans had just punched the planet to get their attention. Captain Osei spoke again. "That was a warning shot. The next one will be a message. The one after that, a lesson." Her words weren't loud, but they carried the weight of an empire that had only recently learned how much it was capable of. The Dominion commander glared at her through the comm, mandibles flexing in disbelief. "You are insane. All of you. No species would risk everything EVERYTHING for so few." Mara Osei finally allowed a flicker of emotion fury, controlled like a blade. "You don't know humans." The Dominion bridge fell silent. The comm feed crackled. Somewhere in the background, Karth soldiers whispered nervously. Humans had never behaved like this. Humans were supposed to be gentle, diplomatic, endlessly patient. But now, Staring into the cold eyes of a grieving captain, the galaxy saw something new. Humanity had dormant instincts older than their cities, older than their technology instincts forged when survival required protecting every member of the tribe, no matter what monsters prowled the dark. The Dominion commander hissed, "What gives you the right to act with such brutality?" Captain Osei lowered her voice until it was a whisper sharpened by centuries of ancestral memory. "They're ours." Every officer on the human bridge stood at attention, not because protocol demanded it, but because something primal had filled the air, the unspoken vow humans had carved into the universe since the day they left Earth. If you harm one of us, you answer to all of us. The Dominion commander tried to regain control. If you fire on us further, you declare total war. We didn't come here to declare war, Mara said. We came here to end a kidnapping. He sputtered. You would risk your species for family, she said. Always. The human fleet inched forward, every thruster pulse steady as a heartbeat. And for the first time in centuries, the Dominion forces took a step back, not because they feared death, but because they feared what they couldn't understand. Humans weren't fighting for territory, resources, or power. They were fighting for people. The comm flickered one last time before K. Therrell severed the link, his voice trembling despite himself. You will regret this. Captain Osei didn't look away. Yes, she said softly. We will. The comm died. The war began. And the galaxy would soon learn what it meant when humanity decided it had nothing left to lose. The Dominion capital, Vrathuk Prime, gleamed like a crown of obsidian and green fire from orbit. Its towers spiraled in impossible curves, each structure alive with bioluminescent runes that pulsed to the heartbeat of the ruling elite. Sensors detected tens of thousands of civilian inhabitants, countless military installations, and defensive arrays designed to obliterate anything less than a full fleet. To the galaxy, it was impregnable. To humans, it was simply the final obstacle between them and their people. The hammer of dawn appeared above the world without warning, a black monolith slicing through the sky like an omen. It emitted no call for parley, no salvo of warnings. Its presence alone made Dominion radar engineers question every calculation they had ever made. Position confirmed, Captain Mara Osei said, voice calm, almost gentle. Her crew waited for no applause, no relief, just orders. RAVEL initiate orbital disruption vectors. Begin suppression fire. Avoid civilian zones. The AI's voice, smooth and measured, filled the command deck. Targeting arrays engaged. Energy projections set to non-lethal neutralization. Civilian interference minimized. Deployment sequence ready. Commence, Mara said. Seconds later, orbital arrays flared. Precision strikes disabled the outermost weapons platforms in microseconds. Energy beams collapsed communication towers and defense turrets with the surgical accuracy of a scalpel. Not a single civilian building was harmed. The Dominion defenders were caught off guard, their screens lighting with warnings, outer defenses compromised. Systems offline. Command response delayed. Across the capital, Dominion officers scrambled in shock. K. Therrell Prime Strand, the High Commander, pounded the walls of his tactical chamber, mandibles clacking in disbelief. How can they strike so quickly? How can they avoid every city, every civilian? They are, he faltered, impossible. That was the human advantage. Humans were not predictable. They did not act from ego. They acted from necessity, and their necessity was absolute. Every strike, every movement, every deployment was designed to incapacitate without collateral loss to innocence. Precision was their weapon. Calm was their armor. On the streets below, civilians looked up in awe and fear as sleek human dropships descended silently. Paratroopers fast-roped onto rooftops, not to conquer, but to disable strategic points. Security arrays fell under their touch. Locks disengaged. Shields dropped. Surveillance systems turned against their owners, feeding live data directly to the hammer above. Every human operative carried minimal gear, each piece optimized for efficiency. Exosuits enhanced reflexes and strength, but they moved with the grace of dancers, silent, methodical, almost unreal. They didn't panic. They didn't hesitate. They were living embodiments of calm inevitability. The Dominion tried to respond. Railguns fired. Missile turrets activated. Plasma lances flared. Yet, each attack was neutralized before it could reach the humans. Shields on the hammer flared and adjusted dynamically, absorbing energy and converting it into power for deployment vectors. The humans were everywhere, yet nowhere at once, a terrifying display of calculation and coordination. Deep within the city, the holding facilities for the abducted humans awaited. Thick walls of adaptive armor, surveillance systems, energy locks, and containment fields. Sail guards stationed at every corridor. The Dominion believed these captives were safe, hidden beyond reach, protected by the full might of their empire. They did not realize safety was irrelevant when humans arrived. A strike team descended into the central complex. Doors opened with electromagnetic keys hacked in milliseconds. Security drones were neutralized silently. Guards found themselves face to face with humans who did not hesitate, did not panic, did not shout. One step, one push, one incapacitation at a time. The perimeter fell. No unnecessary violence. Every movement precise. Every human life accounted for, even the enemy, who was rendered unconscious, not dead. Captain Mara monitored the operation from orbit, her eyes scanning the feeds. She whispered into the comm, "Checkpoints clear. Hostages confirmed alive. Proceed with extraction." Inside the central holding chamber, humans huddled, frightened but uninjured. One child began to cry. Mara's operative knelt, offering a calming gesture. "It's okay. You're safe now. We're here." The child's trembling fingers met the human's hand, and for the first time since capture, hope sparked. Outside, Dominion fleets attempted countermeasures. Squadrons launched from the orbital bays, hoping to engage the hammer directly. They fired in coordinated volleys, trying to overwhelm the AI's defenses. Each missile, each energy blast was intercepted, redirected, or absorbed. No human ship was lost. No life was taken. Only Dominion infrastructure crumbled beneath the silent storm of precision. The Dominion High Commander, watching from his command citadel, realized the truth too late. Humans were not merely soldiers. They were instruments of inevitable recovery. Every strike was calculated not for destruction, but for control. Every maneuver neutralized threat without overreach. They were terrifying, not because of anger, not because of rage, but because they were unerring, unstoppable, and entirely devoted to their objective. By the time the hammer deployed extraction pods and returned the hostages, the Dominion capital lay in tactical ruin. Defense arrays neutralized, communication hubs silenced, elite forces incapacitated, but civilian casualties were minimal. Humanity had reclaimed what was theirs, leaving a clear, chilling message. No one touches our people and escapes unscathed. As the human fleet departed, the High Commander surveyed the damage in disbelief. His planet was intact, for the most part. Civilians survived. Yet, he had been humiliated, outmaneuvered, and bested by a species he had underestimated for centuries. His species had power, technology, and numbers. Humans had none of that in proportion, yet they had triumphed with terrifying precision. Mara's voice came through one final broadcast to the Dominion network. Your facilities are disabled. Your captives are safe. Any further aggression against humans will be met with the same certainty. You were warned. The hammer of dawn accelerated away, leaving orbit silently, like a shadow that had passed through and left only the cold knowledge of inevitability. Across the galaxy, intelligence networks buzzed with disbelief. No species had ever seen humans act with such flawless, cold efficiency. No species had ever experienced the power of a species that fought not for glory, not for dominance, but for the unbreakable bond of their own. And on the decks of the Hammer, Captain Mara Osei finally allowed herself a breath. 132 lives had been reclaimed. No unnecessary deaths. No mistakes. Humanity had spoken to the galaxy in a language older than war, older than treaties. We do not negotiate when it comes to our own. We act. And when we act, the universe itself bends to our precision. The Dominion, shaken to its core, would never forget that day. Humanity had arrived not as a conqueror or a diplomat, but as a force beyond fear, a species whose single-minded, coldly efficient protection of its own had reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy. The Hammer of Dawn hung in silent orbit above Ra-Fuk Prime, a black monolith, against the green glow of the Dominion capital. Below, the city slowly began to process the devastation. Energy arrays flickered back to life. Streets emptied of panic, and citizens emerged from shelter to witness the impossible. Towers still glimmered, civilians largely unharmed, yet every Dominion officer, every bureaucrat, every soldier understood with a terrifying clarity. Humans had arrived, struck with surgical inevitability, and left without a single misstep. Humanity had proven a truth the galaxy would remember for centuries. You could not underestimate them, and you could never predict their limits. Inside the Hammer, Captain Mara Osei walked slowly along the observation deck. Her eyes tracked the city below, the restored life, the silent watchers. One by one, her crew had returned the abducted humans to the ship, each one unharmed but deeply shaken. Scientists, teachers, students, and children, all frightened but alive. Every rescue had been executed with painstaking care. No one was left behind. The young children clung to their rescuers, clutching juice boxes or stuffed animals, as though these tiny comforts could shield them from the horrors they had seen. Elderly captives leaned heavily on human medics, trembling but steadying themselves under gentle hands. Mara stopped beside a small girl who refused to speak, only watching the world through wide, fearful eyes. Kneeling, Mara whispered softly, "You're safe now. You're home." The girl's fingers finally reached for Mara's hand, and in that small touch, the mission's meaning crystallized. This was why humanity fought. This was why the galaxy had always misjudged them. Ravel's voice, calm and measured as ever, filled the chamber. All hostages accounted for. Medical scans indicate full vitality. Extraction was executed with 0 civilian casualties. Mara exhaled slowly. Good. Prepare for departure. We have shown them enough. Outside, Dominion sensors tracked the hammer's every movement, yet even the most advanced analytics could not fully capture the human strategy. No other fleet had challenged their capital before. No species had executed such a precise, calculated operation without so much as a single civilian casualty. K. Thurl Prime Strand, the Dominion High Commander, still in orbit on his flagship, clenched his mandibles in disbelief. He had expected chaos, bloodshed, and bargaining chips. Instead, he had faced a force that neutralized threats, recovered hostages, and withdrew flawlessly. It was impossible, and yet undeniably true. Humans were unlike any other species in the galaxy. In the capital itself, Dominion civilians and military alike began murmuring among themselves. They watched their city remain intact, the streets largely unscathed, the energy shields re-stabilized, all while every human target had been neutralized. The Karth fleet had been outmaneuvered with calm precision, and yet no human had died. No innocent had been harmed. A subtle, terrifying realization spread through their ranks. Humans did not fight for territory. Humans did not fight for power. Humans fought for their own, and in that fight, they were unstoppable. On the Hammer, Mara convened a meeting of her command staff. We've done what we came to do. Hostages are safe. Dominion forces are weakened, but alive. We've demonstrated human capability. But our mission is not to annihilate. We are here to restore balance. Document everything. Report to Central Command, and prepare to leave orbit. One of her lieutenants, a tall, precise operative named Lieutenant Hurrah, nodded. Captain, the Dominion is unlikely to forget this. Mara's eyes narrowed. They won't forget. But they will remember something more important. We do not negotiate when it comes to our people. We act. And when we act, we do so flawlessly. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of the Dominion Command Citadel, K. Thurl sat before the main holoscreen, reviewing every moment of the operation. His advisors cowered, whispering excuses, blaming miscalculations, technological failures, and the unexpected intelligence of human forces. But K. Thurl understood the truth. Humans were unpredictable because they were precise, because they were focused, and because their bond to each other was unbreakable. Their decisions were guided, not by fear, not by pride, but by loyalty, by something the Dominion had never truly understood: family. On the Hammer, Mara's crew prepared the evac pods. Families, children, scientists, all safely loaded, secured, and accounted for. Every operative moved with calm efficiency, executing each step with machine-like precision. The city below faded from view as the Hammer initiated its departure, a silent shadow leaving the Dominion world intact, yet forever changed. The abducted humans, still adjusting to the sudden freedom, looked around at their rescuers with awe. Scientists whispered thanks through tears. Students clutched their rescuers' hands. The children, wide-eyed and exhausted, finally smiled through their fear. Every rescued human embodied the reason why humanity had become legendary, not through conquest, not through war, but through the fierce and unyielding protection of one another. Captain Mara allowed herself one private moment in the observation deck. She gazed across the stars, thinking of Earth, of Mars, of Titan, of every homeworld that had contributed to this mission. The Hammer of Dawn had executed its task with perfection. 132 lives returned. One galaxy, now aware of what it meant to underestimate humanity. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "We do not wage war for glory. We wage it for each other. That is who we are." Ravel's voice broke the silence. "Captain, the extraction has set a precedent. Intelligence across the galaxy indicates increased caution from all Dominion-aligned systems. Reputation scores for humans have spiked across multiple sectors." Mara allowed a faint smile. "Let them be cautious. Let them remember. They should know that humans are precise, efficient, and relentless when it comes to family. That alone is enough to keep the galaxy in balance." As the hammer accelerated away from the Dominion system, the galaxy began to whisper tales of the human species, stories of a civilization that did not merely fight, calculated every action with perfect execution, that did not simply avenge, but retrieved, restored, and protected. Merely survive, but exemplified the terrifying precision of loyalty and love. Thurl Prime Strand, forced to relay the events to the Zal High Council, spoke only a single trembling phrase. They are beyond reckoning. They are unlike anything we have ever faced." In the void between stars, Captain Mara Osei watched her crew. Engineers recalibrated, medics attended to minor injuries. Operatives cleaned their equipment with methodical calm. Not a celebration, not pride. Only preparation for the next time humanity's precision would be called upon. One human child, clinging to a medkit, looked up at Mara and whispered, "Will they come again?" Mara knelt, her voice soft but unwavering. "They will. And if they do, they will learn exactly why humans never abandon their own. That is our law. That is our strength. That is who we are." And with that, the hammer of dawn vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed, a dominion humbled, and a species defined not by conquest, not by aggression, but by the relentless, unstoppable, and inescapable bond of humanity. For the first time in the galaxy's history, every intelligence, every diplomat, every warrior understood a terrifying, inescapable truth. You do not take a human. You do not threaten a human. You do not underestimate a human. And if you do, you will face the cold, precise, unyielding fury of a species that protects its own. And that was humanity.